Hello everybody and welcome back to another Friday lesson. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do an artist statement. I already posted this on my social media, on my Twitter and my Tumblr. I've already posted about this, that I'd like to start taking submissions from you guys for lessons about the fundamentals. If you remember a couple months back, maybe January-ish, I said that I would like to start teaching you guys the fundamentals. It might have even been like more recent than that, but I'd like to start teaching you guys the fundamentals of art and how to improve yourself using the fundamentals of art. It's not very difficult, and it's not huge leaps and bounds. You'll do a lot of unlearning to relearn, but the focus is improving those building blocks and those foundational steps, because a lot of people that I've noticed have completely skipped doing the foundation of their art education, and they just want to jump into what brush is great, what color palettes are great, how do I stylize this, how do I stylize that. Well, in order to learn how to stylize your work, you have to learn how to do the work that you're meant to be doing first. So, first things first is going back to the topic of the video. This video is specifically about how to make an artist statement. What is it? Why is it used? How do you use it? How do you make it your own thing? All that fun stuff. Let me turn my mic down a little bit because I'm a little closer than I usually am. Okay. So, in order to fully explain what an artist statement is, I have to first tell you the definition of an artist statement. Then I can get into all the nuanced stuff, right? So, an artist statement, and I'm going to write this down so you guys have a visual of it. An artist statement is a written statement to help others understand your piece, project, or series. Okay, so a big difference that a lot of people seem to mix up with is a summary for a book. You're not making a summary for a book. You are making a descriptive piece or a descriptive written section for your artwork. It is comparative to a book summary, but it is not a book summary. Right? It is a written statement specifically about your artwork. Now, this statement is usually about 1 or 2 paragraphs. And it follows 3 simple concepts. It follows the what, the why, and the how. So, let's talk brass tacks, right? So, the what. What are you drawing? What is the subject? What is the topic? So, I'll just write what, subject, topic, so on and so on, right? Next is the why. Why did you pick that topic? Why did you use that medium? Why did you, so on and so forth. It's asking you why you went down the road that you went, right? So why? Subject, color tone, vibe. Okay, next is the how. The how is so straightforward, so simple. It is, how did you accomplish that goal? So the what was your goal? The why was that your goal? And the how is, how did you reach that goal? How did you come to the conclusion to pick that subject, that topic, that lighting, those effects, so on and so forth? So how did you reach that goal? Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. I call this the 1, 2, 3 method. So this section here, I call the 1, 2, 3 method for an artist statement. I personally used it in college to help me make my artist statement. I was not consistent with my artist statements. Sometimes I just chose not to do them. Sometimes I did them and they were only like a sentence or two long. And as I got into my senior years of college, I found that making artist statements to be a little bit easier as time went on. I personally don't make them anymore because I don't post my art on websites where that's a requirement. Not so much anymore. Think of websites like DeviantArt, how there's the artist description. Think of websites like Fur Affinity, Inkblot, ArtStation. What are other art websites? The Behance, stuff like that, where an artist statement is pretty commonplace, if you know what they are. So you use this method, the 1, 2, 3 method. First one paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 concepts, which I just noticed I spelled wrong. Why didn't you guys tell me? Jeez, I thought you guys had my back. Okay, so that's how I visualize it. I visualize it in 3 steps: the 1 or 2 paragraphs, and the 3 concepts. Typically, you can condense the what and the why into 1 paragraph and the how into its own paragraph. That's why I say about 1 to 2 paragraphs. I typically try to write about 1 or 2 sentences per concept. So you see how we're only floating in between the numbers 1 to 3, so it's not overwhelming. Sometimes you can condense it. Sometimes if you're really on a roll with the writing part, you can expand it, but this should not take more than, I would say, an hour to an hour and a half of your production time of your piece. Now, here is a very, very important part of this concept, right? If you are like me and you are trying to do your artist statement before you do your work so that it gives you something rigid to stick to, I would say give it an hour to an hour and a half. But if you are writing it after the fact, you need to start taking notes as you're working. They don't have to be extreme notes, just talk like notes about what color you picked, why you picked that subject, stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be full sentences. It can be a word. It can be like, oh, red and green. And tall tall humanoid person in a bedroom. Stuff like that. Just quick statements so that you don't lose track of what you were saying, like what you're wanting to say with your artist statement. So, let me go back over here, and I'm going to resize, and I'm going to move this up and make sure it's centered. There we go. Okay, so next part, right? Where we're going to talk about what I said. I'm going to make a note of what I said just now. 1 to 1.5 hours to write. Okay? And then the last thing that I said is before. Oh, wait. Let me put that up here. Before and take notes if writing after. Right? Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is where you would put that artist statement. If you're posting it somewhere like TikTok or Tumblr, not so much Tumblr, but like TikTok or Instagram, or, well, actually not even Instagram. Instagram lifted that limit. Or Twitter. There we go. Those are the two social platforms that everybody's using that I know for a fact have hard limits on how many characters you can put in your video description. Though TikTok has upped theirs, which is very helpful, it's still not as much as you think it is. So when you're doing that for social media, I would say, oh, sorry, just to double back really quick, under your what section, you're going to want to put here, medium. So what medium are you using? Are you using paint? Are you doing it digital? Are you doing a sculpture? So on, so on, so on. So what medium are you using also goes into that what statement. Okay? Back to what I was saying about social media. A lot of the time on social media, you don't necessarily need to worry about an artist statement, but you should, and this is only a suggestion, you should focus some part on making a description that connects to your artwork. If you look at my TikToks, I typically just do BS descriptions because I really don't care about TikTok as a platform. Even though it is my most successful platform, I really tend to not care about it. But you do need to consider that as a, alternative. So, the big thing with those is that a lot of the time people don't look at the descriptions of your work. Twitter, it's kind of hard to avoid because it's kind of right there, right in your face. But TikTok, people typically don't read your description. And if they do, they're probably very dedicated to your work. If they don't, they'll probably just watch your video and scroll past, or like hit like and then scroll past, stuff like that. TikTok is a very fickle medium, platform. It's very fickle. Anyway, so keep that in mind when you're working with TikTok. Sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's not very good, okay? Excuse me. So, the next part of this video, I am going to talk about how you actually write it. Aside from like the basic concepts, what it is and how it's usually written. So, let me write this down. Not necessary. That looks wrong. That looks wrong. 1 collar, 2 sleeves. Necessary for certain platforms. Okay. Examples. Are Twitter and TikTok. This also comes to light with the rise of short format content, because apparently people can't sit for more than 5 minutes to observe something. Anyway, so next big part is, how do you write it? What are you trying to do? What is your goal? What are you accomplishing? Stuff like that. So in order to write it, you need to understand, one, the basics of your native language. My native language is English. I understand very little of multiple languages, like French, Spanish, Korean. I know very little Mandarin, and I know very, very, very minimal Igbo. I don't, I can't speak it fluently, but if I hear it, I can recognize the language as what it is. But I digress. You need to know how to write something in your native language. That's the baseline, right? So here's what I'll say as far as language goes. You need to know how to use descriptive language in this written statement, okay? So use descriptive language. Now, when I say descriptive language, I do not mean the apple is red, the window is open, the sun is bright. Not stuff like that. You need to be able to describe it with fluency. So you can say, I decided to make the apple a bright, an iridescent ruby red to illuminate the viewer's eye and carry it to another part of my piece. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So, you need to be able to use drawn out descriptions for things like this. Like, for example, you see my piece of my OC Jessie, which was our Patreon pinup a while ago, and I will talk about that at the end of the video. But you see how there's different colors going on. There's very much, it leans towards a very specific color tone. Even though his skin is a like warm, almost translucent paleness, like a, it's not necessarily tan, but it's not necessarily translucent. It falls in between that spectrum. You can see that still comes off as a cool toned skin color, because I decided that in the background, the wall is going to be blue. His shirt is going to be blue. Some of the details in his room are his... Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. Jessie is non-binary. And I think I said he, they are his pronouns, but I could be wrong and it might change. He's my OC, so I can kind of do whatever. But their room is very dark right now. So the room, if I were to describe it, I would say that the bedroom that Jessie is standing in is very dour. It's very dark and kind of grim, while also keeping a certain whimsical feeling to it, with the very fancy lamp, the very personalized bedstand, the very playful and joyful wallpaper with the wallpaper stars, and the contrast is the light coming through the window. I decided to contrast that with a yellow that stood against the blue enough to create a light source and a difference in color, so that the only color that you're seeing isn't just a blue or a cool tone. It's a warm tone that contrasts. And that's how I would it needs some workshopping, but that's close to how I would personally describe the bedroom. Then I would go on to describe Jessie and the different shapes that I decided to use. Like for their hair, the hair I decided was very curly and messy because it's early in the morning and they just woke up. So I wanted that to be reflected in both their clothing choice, which are pajamas, and their hair, as they've probably been sleeping on it all night. So it's probably been compressed over time. So, and then I'd go on to describe other parts of the piece, like the very translucent curtain that you can only see if it's hitting certain parts of the light, and up here next to the window, so on and so on. So, like I said, use descriptive words, but turn those descriptive words into descriptive phrases, which will bring that out to descriptive language, right? So, here are some things that you might want to avoid when making this description. You want to stray away from extreme binaries. You don't want to speak in black and white. You want to be able to oops, hold on. There we go. Avoid extreme binaries. You want to avoid speaking in black and whites, right? Your piece is not black and white. You as a person are not black and white. You are not one thing versus the other. You are a spectrum of a human being. You have interests and what is it called? Diversities within you as a person that spans across multiple different things. You're not necessarily just a brown person. There is a specific brown that you are. You're not just specifically a white person. There's a variety of different pale skin tones that go along with that, section of color. You're not white because you're white passing. You're not one versus the other. It's a huge spectrum of different things. Your hair isn't necessarily black because it's dark. Your hair isn't necessarily blonde because it's light. And it's something that fluctuates. There are tons, hundreds, thousands, millions of different people on this, billions of different people. We're fast approaching the trillions of different human beings on this planet, and every single one is different. And that goes for artists too. There are hundreds and thousands of different artists on this planet that have different methods, techniques, processes, color choices, subject choices, and you need to be aware that it's not just black or white. It's not cartoon or realism. It's not anime or illustrative. It's not all the same. It's all different all at once, okay? Try your best to avoid lazy cliches. Sorry, the further down I get on my tablet, the worse my handwriting gets. Right? Now, lazy cliches is something that you'll hear quite often, and you'll be like, what the hell is a lazy cliche? And nobody has a real answer. My description of it is things like saying, I decided to use complementary colors like like orange and blue because they work together. No, that's not, and I'm not gonna say it's not good enough, but it's not what you want to put out there. Sometimes there is a limitation to the language that you know, and that's when you turn to resources like Google to fully expound upon what you're trying to say. A thesaurus will help you, I promise. The thesaurus.com is free. I promise that'll help. Especially if you go on a website, like if you look up, I think it's like colornames.com or something like that. I'm not gonna look it up because I know I've studied color long enough that I don't need to worry about that personally. But for you as somebody that is learning, take that time, do that research, look up that information, and get those descriptions, okay? You're gonna hear this a lot too. International art language. You're gonna hear that very often. And all I have to say about that is you are not an art critic, you are an artist. You are not writing an article about a piece of art or a museum, what are they called? I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But you're not a reporter. You don't need to worry about that stuff. You need to worry about what an artist would say about these pieces, about what you're working on. You are an artist, and that is where your focus should be. Now, if you're not an artist and you're just trying to learn more about the art world and how to navigate it and how people are learning in it, carry on. I'm not going to stop you. But this is specifically to artists. You're not a journalist. If you're a journalist outside of your art, that's fine. But when it comes to your art, you're an artist. You don't need to worry about using big, expounding, very generalized words for general population. Alright? You need to be able to explain your work and pretty much defend your work with how you've written your description. And you don't have to be good at writing. You could be like the worst writer ever and still be able to achieve an artist statement, okay? Or an art statement. Artist statement. Anyway, you also want to avoid theory. This isn't a college course. If you're doing this for fun, then you don't have to worry about it. This isn't a thesis or an essay. It's a descriptor for your piece, project, or your series and the process you took to get there. You're not getting graded on this. You're not getting graded. Like, you're not. So, now that I've told you guys all that I know about an artist statement and how to achieve writing an artist statement, this is not going to be the first video in the series of fundamental projects, okay? This is going to be an introduction to how to submit your projects. We're really close to that 30-minute mark. I'm going to try to keep this under 35, okay? So, this was all so that you guys can be able to, what is the word? yeah, so that you guys will be able to submit your artist statement to me along with your work so that we can do a review. Like I said this on my social platforms. I want to be able to help you guys in the most interactive way possible. I know for me personally, I have a hard time learning new things on my own without getting some kind of feedback from somebody. I typically turn to my friends and be like, hey, I tried something new. What do you think? And they'll usually give me some kind of feedback or some kind of exuberant reaction and be like, yeah, I love it. But I know for me personally, that only works to a certain extent, and I need that reality check of what's what, right? So that's what I want to offer to you guys as an art educator, as a person that does want to improve the education quality in the art community. I want you guys to be able to come to me and submit stuff to me and be like, hey, I followed your tutorial with the lesson and I would like to know if I did it right or if I can improve somewhere, or like just general thoughts. And I will have that set up by the first week in April, so that you guys will be able to, after that week, I'll be able to like look at your work and be like, okay, we'll do this. And the plan is to hold monthly streams either here on YouTube or on Kick, where I talk to you guys and I explain, hey, okay, this is where you can improve, this is where you really excel, blah, 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 right? So that's what I want to do most of all, is I want to be able to show you guys that you can improve by taking 5 steps back to take that 15 steps forward. And the last thing that I'm going to tell you guys about is, again, my Patreon is open. I have 3 tiers at this point. I'll put a little screenshot of it up on the screen right now. My 3 tiers are very open for everybody, except for the not safe for work one. If you are not over the age of 18, you cannot sub to that tier. I apologize. I know that it's so tempting, but for your safety and my safety, we are not going to do that ever. And if you do and you're underage, it will not be hard for me to find your information to explain to your parents and reach out to them and be like, hey, I know you give them a little bit of freedom, blah, 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 blah. I don't like getting people in trouble. I really don't. But the reality is that you are putting yourself in a position where danger is going to find you. Other than that, the Patreon is open for everybody. I try to put something out every week. Once a week on Tuesdays, I try to make sure something is posted for you guys so that you guys can kind of take in the artwork, right, before anybody else does. I typically try to post as many comic pages as I can or have available on the Patreon. And I think that's it. We have like 1 minute left in this video, so I really, really hope that you guys enjoyed. And you come back next week for the next video. Next week we are going to start our foundations classes. I hope you find them helpful, and I hope you found this helpful as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Have a great, great weekend.